Welcome, everyone. As I said, my name is Jeff Duguid. This is the Young Member Council Professional Development webinar for the third quarter of 2018 for the Society of American Military Engineers. My name is Jeff Duguid. I am the Council Programs Vice Chair. Today, we have Dana Patterson with us, and she is an environmental communications professional with Princeton Hydro. Dana is a passionate environmental communicator who brings a strong mix of diverse stakeholder engagement experience and values-based communication strategy. She specializes in branding, marketing, and digital media strategy and strives to enhance the mission and values of Princeton Hydro. She believes that the role of communications has evolved beyond simply a transmission of information. Now, communicators must be nodes that connect people together through storytelling and by building diverse networks. Dana holds a Master of Environmental Management degree from Yale University's School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, where she focused on strategies for climate change and wildlife conservation communication. On weekends, you can find Dana birdwatching in parks, capturing nature's beauties through photography, and exploring new trails. Today, Dana is going to be talking to us about social media hacks. She's a SAME young member herself, and for some of us, we might be a little bit rusty or behind on all of the tips and tricks to really utilize social media effectively, and Dana is going to help show us all sorts of strategies that will help in that area. As we're going through the webinar, if you have questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat box. Everybody is muted for the beginning of the call. At the end, we'll open it up to questions and answers, and we will unmute the lines at that point if you'd prefer to wait till the end and ask a question that way. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dana Patterson.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate that. I'm very excited to be here today. As Jeff mentioned, I have a lot of digital media experience. I started out my career, actually, I studied my Bachelor of Chemistry from Fairleigh Dickinson University in Madison, New Jersey. So I come from a science background, and I, at some point, decided to shift from science to science communications. And so I have the sort of fundamental basic knowledge of science behind me, and I'm not a traditional marketing professional, but instead I like to define there's a difference between marketing and communications, and I really enjoy communication strategy and don't come from a traditional marketing background. And before I went to grad school, as Jeff mentioned, I worked in the NGO community doing community organizing at a really grassroots level. So a lot of the things that I've learned in terms of social media hacks or free resources and all that in that world is because I come from the NGO community where you don't have many resources and you sort of have to figure it out yourself and find all the possible ways to do that on the most either no or very small budget. So then I went back to grad school, and during my grad school experience, I worked in a variety of digital media positions. I worked for the Yale program for climate change communication for 2.5 years doing digital strategy, as well as National Audubon Society in the social media department. And I also worked for the Yale Environment 360, which is an online journal magazine, and the communications office of my grad school. So I've had a lot of exposure in the environmental space in terms of digital communication, and so I'm excited to share a lot of these tips and tricks with all of you today. So to start, just going to go through a little bit of an outline here. So first, I'd just like to give it sort of an overview of what we're going to be going over today. First, I want to talk about strategy, which is one of the most important parts of digital media. Then we'll go through planning and timing and some ways to do that, and how to make sure that you're really capturing the moment. Then we'll go into detail and go through a couple different social media networks and what's the most important parts of posting on each one of them. Some engagement tips, and then how to manage social media and how to measure it through analytics. And then I'm going to do a quick demo of a free program that I use almost on a daily basis, and we can go into questions and answering. And one of the things I really like to do is use memes, and so you'll see that as a sort of a theme throughout this presentation. They're really a good way to get people to laugh, but to also get the point across. And as you can see here, you want us to make one of those viral videos, you can make that happen, right? And that's sort of a typical manager to social media manager conversation, and so we'll get through that. So moving forward, some people, what is a social media strategist? And a social media strategist can range from someone who does this full time, and that's their professional field, to someone who is an executive director of a nonprofit and also has to manage social media, to someone who is a small business owner and they have only a team of a few people, and so someone has to do it. That person can also be a social media manager or strategist, to someone who, like myself, is responsible for not just social media, but public relations, marketing, and such. And so it's always a juggle to manage that time, depending on what it is. So this is sort of like what your friends think you do, what a society think we do, and what we really do is have 1,000 tabs open all the time, and we're trying to be as timely as possible. So let's move forward here. So one of the most important things in social media is to define your strategy, and sort of to make sure that you're not operating just on a whim. And so how do you do that? So what's involved in a strategy? So the most important thing to do is to know your audience, and then define it. And so most people don't realize, or maybe they do, but they haven't really thought about it, is that your audience, even though you may be an engineering firm, your audience can vary on every single different social media platform. So what does your audience look like for Facebook? Is it more family-friendly audience? Is it a bunch of engineers? What does Twitter look like? Is Twitter experts? And generally, it's a lot of experts. It's reporters. It's people who are coming to you for timely information or research or studies or news or articles. What does Instagram look like? So really try to understand who your audience is and who you're trying to post to. And it's okay to have different audiences on different social media platforms, and it's okay to post different things on different social media platforms. But in order to do so, you really have to know who they are. The next, and arguably one of the most important things, is to identify your capacity. As I mentioned earlier, you can be someone who does this full time, or you can be someone who has 2 to 3 hours a week or 2 to 3 hours a month to think about this. But if you're identifying what your capacity is from the beginning, you sort of already have an idea of what you're able to do, how much you can post. And, really, should you be using Snapchat? Do you have the capacity to do that? Do you have the capacity to be on every single one of the social media platforms? Maybe you don't. And it's more important to sort of do those 1 or 2 social media platforms well than it is to try to be everywhere. So that's important to think about. If you have limited capacity, make sure that you're just focusing on a couple of social media platforms or one, and not trying to stretch yourself too thin, because that can be really, really hard to manage. The next thing is, as you're creating your strategy, you should set some goals for each of your platforms, whether it's a certain engagement rate you like to reach, whether it's how many posts you intend to do per day or per week, but sort of set those and make sure that they're realistic and that your capacity is understood and is feeding into those goals and reflecting those goals. And then what you're doing when you're creating your strategy is you're trying to start a conversation. So you want to make sure that you're creating this conversation versus just spitting out all different types of information to the public. So you want to really have that engagement. You don't just want people to like your post, but you want them to comment on it. You want them to share it. You want them to share it with a comment. You want them to tell your friends about it. You want to respond to some of those things. So if someone asks you a question on social media, You want to make sure that you're immediately responding to that or providing a further resource or talking about a topic that may be of interest to your audience. And of course, you can use free resources to do all that, which we will get into in a little while. But it's important to have a strategy, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to have a marketing professional come in and write a social media strategy for your company or your group. It can simply be a couple of pages where internally you're just thinking about who do you want to reach, who are you reaching currently, how much time do you have, and what you're trying to get out of social media. Once you start to define all of those things, your capacity to meet them or your need to meet that capacity sort of comes to fruition. It's much easier to work towards a goal if you have one. So it's really important to set that strategy from the beginning. Even if you have almost no capacity, identifying that is the most important step. So then once you've done all that, you can sort of start to plan out your social media strategy. So something that I like to use, and this is just an example here on the slide of a Google sheet that's a calendar. There's many different ways you can do. You can do a Google Calendar itself. You can do an Outlook calendar. You can do a Word document. The most important thing is to figure out when you're planning out these things, what system works best for you. And so I like to use a shared calendar where myself and any other team members or whoever in the company can see it if they want to. They can sort of understand what's coming up. And so on this calendar, why is this important to plan out? So you can plan out, yes, we're having these types of posts come out, but the most important thing is to sort of capture the timing of certain things. So what holidays are coming up that you can relate your content to, or what special events are happening. There's a lot of public holidays that people love to connect posts to. We always wish our followers a happy 4th of July. And so maybe we relate back to some bald eagle facts if we're trying to promote information on different environmental topics. Professional Engineers Day is a great one. You could highlight some of your staff, but the most important part is to plan out these events onto your calendar so that maybe you want to write a blog about it and then you want to link your blog to your social media post, or you just want to simply post some type of photo and post up. And you can do this and you can schedule this ahead of time so you don't have to scramble. Some of these holidays are falling, on days when we have off, July 4th. Most of us are not working, but we'll talk about this later. We can use free resources to schedule those posts and sort of be ahead of that. So that's really important. There's a lot of, and like I said, there's a lot of things you can take advantage of and be timely with. National Intern Day, that was one that was new to me this year. And I heard about it, I got a post up, just happened to have this great content. My intern, and you'll see the next slide, had hand-drawn a aquatics invasive plant species guide. And I had been meaning to post it just as a general post, and then I came across National Intern Day, and I thought that it would make a great post for that content, and it did really, really well. So that's important to take advantage of those types of things. And like I said, you can use free resources to create your calendar. So that's sort of the key here. I've tried to capture as many things as I can. The other point on timing is to focus your posts on times of the day when your audience is most engaged or interacting with social media. So a lot of times at 4:45 p.m. at the end of the day, when things are winding down at work, people start to look at their phone, or maybe they're scrolling their Facebook. Maybe they shouldn't be, but they are. Another important time is lunchtime, anywhere between like 11:30 and 1. People are usually taking a lunch break. They may be checking in on their social media networks. And so you can time your posts to these times of the day when people are most interactive. And some of the analytics software will also tell you when people are most active or when your posts do the best. And so it's important to pay attention to those things. And you don't want to share a post at 3 o'clock a.m. when everyone is sleeping. You want to make sure you're doing it when they're awake and they're using their social media networks. And so the other important thing is to respond to people in a timely manner. So Facebook is becoming a really important mechanism for people to either troubleshoot or reach out to different companies. In some cases, the larger companies are using it as like the prime contact for troubleshooting, or asking questions, or if you have an issue, or getting back to people. And the response rate to respond to those people is really important. And so making sure that you're sort of paying attention to that and that your timing is key. And the other big thing here for planning and timing is that I didn't mention, is like events like conferences. So you'll probably hear this a few times throughout this presentation, but in October, we have the Society for American Military Engineers Small Business Conference coming up in New Orleans. And so that's an event that people are going to be tweeting about using a hashtag. And you're going to want to make sure you're building that into your calendar. If you're going to the event, you might want to say, hey, we're going to be at SAME, come check out our booth at, this part of the conference area, whatever number you are, or hey, come say hi to us. Some companies do like raffles and stuff. You want to make sure that before the conference, using the conference hashtag, you're sort of putting that up and timing that out and having that on your calendar. And so maybe mid-October, you're scheduling on your calendar, I'm going to do a pre-SAME conference post. And so these are some of the resources that you can use to do that. So let's move on to attention to detail. So, excuse me, for each, I'm going to go through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram here as some examples of paying attention to detail for each platform. So here I have two posts. One is SAME and one is National Audubon Society. If you're looking at the posts, they look very clean. They're very to the point. The photos are the correct size. There's limited hashtags on Facebook. There's different content in the title than is in the subtext. And so these are sort of the details that you need to pay attention to when you're creating the posts. You want to make sure that you're creating a sense of community on Facebook. People like to interact, people like to talk, people like to comment. But you can also have fun, right? So the Audubon post, it did, when I was at Audubon, this did really, really well. The caption is what made the post, right? So we've got bald eagle parents, it snows, their babies are there, they're still incubating their eggs. Parents of the year, you're personifying the bald eagles so that you can sort of feel what they're feeling. And those types of posts is what do really well. Other things that are really important for Facebook is that you have to think about, most people are using mobile devices to look at Facebook. They're not signing into their computer. So is the photos, is the title, is the text, is it going to read well on a mobile device? There are ways that you can check this as well if you're interested, but it's pretty simple. As long as your post is sized appropriately for Facebook, then it will likely do well on mobile. You have to also think about the previews. So if you're linking an article in the Audubon post here, that title and that subtext are automatically generated by Facebook based on the metadata from the website. So if you're sharing a news article from like a really high profile news organization, they've sort of already thought about this, and the title and the link are going to preview really well. But if you're doing it from your website and you haven't really thought about metadata, you might have to adjust the back end to make sure. It's really important to preview that too before you just post it. I like to make sure if my photo is not sized correctly, I will resize it to make sure that it's appropriate. If my title isn't previewing properly, I want to make sure that I'm making sure before I schedule it or I post it that it looks really good. So those are a couple of key things for social media. You can also, for Facebook, you can upload photos directly to Facebook, and instead of linking to YouTube, Facebook internally is promoting, their algorithm promotes videos, and so you want to make sure that you can do it to both sites. There's nothing to say you can't post it on Facebook and post it on YouTube, but I've found that posting it directly to Facebook, it does really well. And then you can just direct people right to your Facebook page to see the video. We recently did a World Fish Migration Day video. It was a really goofy video to celebrate it. We had like fish head masks, and our engineers were going in a river, and it was a really fun video. And we made the decision to post it directly to Facebook because we wanted to up our Facebook engagement rather than to YouTube, because people would just go directly to YouTube and they wouldn't engage with our social media network of Facebook. So we only posted it to Facebook, and it did really well. It would, I guess you could call it one of Princeton Hydro's viral videos. And it was pretty cool. So just keep that in mind at the different places where you're posting. And for Facebook, I would post maximum 2 times per day. If you're a small organization, if you're a really large organization and you have a lot of good content, you can go up to 3 or 4. But we post probably average 1 post per day. But it's really up to you. You don't want to have 10 or 12 posts per day. That's way too much unless you really have the content. Like major news organizations have the content, so they can do that. But if you don't have the content, don't put more posts than you need to. All right, so Twitter. Twitter is a very fast-moving social media network. People will see it in their feed pretty quickly, and if it gets retweeted or liked, then it will come up in the feed again. But really interesting about Twitter is that you can post, unlike Facebook, you can post every hour on the hour if you wanted to, and you can repeat posts if you want to, and they will still do well because it's just such a quick-moving social media network. It's really important on Twitter to, just as in Facebook, to have high-quality photos, to have clear and concise text. You're limited in characters, so you want to make sure that your text is clear and it's not overwhelmed by hashtags or tags. People can still read it very quickly as they're scrolling. The key with social media, and this is a term that I really like, is that you want to make this a thumb stopper. So your post, as someone's scrolling through, you want to make it so exciting that they're going to stop their thumb and read it. So it's a place, Twitter's a place where you can promote your web content. You can be witty if you want to. Can you make it through this gallery of owl photos without smiling? Guess what everyone's going to do? They're going to try to do that. You're asking a question, you're presenting a challenge to people, and they're going to immediately click back to that post, which is posted on your website, which is going to lead people to your website and get excited about it. Another thing is that, like, creating really timely posts, like I said earlier, just great. This post on the right here about the Columbia Dam removal in North Jersey. For Princeton Hydro, this is, a really good post for us. We're a small business. We don't have a large social media following, but this did really well. We tagged all of our partners in the photos, so they're getting a notification that we're putting this post up, and they end up sharing the post. So it's, we don't have too many hashtags. It's very clear that what's going on. The pictures are speaking to the post, so really important. You want to create those posts that are sort of begging to be retweeted. Let's see. So the other thing you don't want to do on Twitter is this, which is hashtag every single post, every single word in the post. It's way too overwhelming. It doesn't really get any extra views or likes. No one is searching the word could. No one is searching the word in. Hashtags should be reserved for really important trending topics, like first day of fall, right? That's probably going to be a trending hashtag on Twitter. Things like that you can take advantage of the timing of. However, you may think that something is really important, like, I don't know, some really technical word is really cool and you want to hashtag it, but no one else is searching that word. So you want to make sure there are websites. I think one is called Topsy.com, where you can search sort of the hashtag and how often it's been used, or how much it's been used in the last month or week. And also, you want to, for hashtags, you want to be genuine about what hashtags you're using when you're talking about your work. You don't want to use a hashtag like Madonna to talk about a dam removal unless Madonna actually showed up at the dam removal. So it's really, you really want to be genuine. And like I said, you should search if you want to come up with a hashtag. So say you've decided, I want to start a campaign, or I want to start a hashtag around a certain practice that we're doing. Make sure that before you do that, you search to see if it's been used in a campaign before, or if, maybe sometimes I've found I search certain words or certain combinations of words, and in other countries or other languages, or maybe it's an acronym of something, it means something else. And so you want to make sure that it's unique to what you're trying to do. And that it's searchable. So the other thing is, like, if you're at a conference, SAME SBC 18 is coming up, you want to make sure that you're using that hashtag in the conference so that it's timely at the conference, and that's okay. That's a good example of when to use a hashtag. And this is a graphic that I borrowed from Bitly, which we'll talk about in a little while, a presentation that showed something really interesting that stood out. So the left side of the graph is showing average clicks on a post, and the right graph is showing retweets on a post. And as you can see, if you're looking sort of to get someone to click on a post, with or without images is pretty close. But if you're looking to get someone to retweet a post with images, almost tripled than a post without images. So it's really important, if you really want people to share and retweet that content that you're putting out, that you're using a clear, concise photo that represents what the post is about. Great. So Instagram is mainly photos. So photos and a caption that tells a story about a photo. Here's where you can, if you want to put a little bit longer of a post, you can. You can put a lot of hashtags. One of the things I like to do with hashtags on Instagram is not put them in my comment or my post text. Immediately after I post my photo, I make the first comment from print that you can see in the photo here, the first comment, the list of hashtags. So it sort of separates out the two. Sometimes you can have one or two in the original text here, but here's where you can put 10 hashtags if you want. And on Instagram, people do search these hashtags. So you will get a bump up in likes or comments on your post if you use different hashtags. And you want them, of course, to be relevant, and you want them to be interesting, but here's where you can use those generic words: engineering, environment, science, kids, and that will help you help up your engagement on Instagram. High quality photos is a key. So make sure that the photo is framed well, is interesting. Here we had take your child to work day, and we had all the children in our Sicklerville, New Jersey office soils lab checking out something that they were doing in the soils lab, and it made for a really great post that was posted on Take Your Child to Work Day. So it was timely. People were thinking about that. They may have had their own kid at work. They could relate to it. And here we are teaching kids about science, which is really exciting. Know your audience, have a vision, and then you can also tag people. So you can tag different other companies or individuals in the photos. And so you want to make sure that, if you're trying to team up with someone and you're sharing some of their content, or you're posting something, oh, we're doing a dam removal, and X, Y, and Z companies are here with us or partnered with us, you want to make sure you tag those folks in the photo, because they can reshare that content if they're active on social. Great. So engagement. So we've sort of been talking about methods of engagement the whole way, but you really want to try to enrich in existing relationships. You want to highlight the work that your company is doing. If you are giving back, we do a lot of like donation campaigns. We did one to the veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America, and so we did a post about how we've collected all these clothes and we donated it. Highlight those types of things. I mentioned the intern hand sketch aquatics invasive species guide. This is the post here that we did for National Intern Day, but we're showcasing our staff. People loved it. People like to see what your staff are doing. They're, her mom, her dad, her family, it probably all saw this post and shared it. So those are the types of things that do really well. The other thing to do is to make sure, don't be afraid to use active language. So telling someone to say, hey, we just posted this new blog, whatever the content is, read more here, or watch this video, or please share this post with your friends. People will listen and people will do it. So it's important to use that type of active language. And you can also, on Facebook and all of these networks, you can tag your partners, your clients, your staff. Just make sure that you're doing it in a way that's clean and concise, right? In Facebook, you can tag folks in the actual text. In LinkedIn, you can do that as well. In Twitter, you can tag them in the photos, or you can use their handle in your post. There's a lot of different ways that you can tag, but make sure you're doing it in a clean way and not just putting a pile up of names without any content or any ideas. One of the ways we did it here, because we had so many partners on the dam removal, is we're thanking all of our partners and then we're listing them. That type of thing is okay. But if I just put them at the bottom of the post and tag their accounts, it sort of would look, it would have no context. So you want to make sure you do it in that clear way. So a couple of other ideas that you can do, which are sort of engaging your folks, is have a photo contest. We did a lakes appreciation photo contest where we had people submit it was called the Seki Dip-In. They're collecting a sample, and so we encouraged people to share that on Facebook and Twitter, and we had a prize at the end of a $100 Amazon gift card. And that helped sort of ramp up the conversation about Lakes Appreciation Month, and also people were sharing content. And that's sort of helping to create, especially these are types of things, if you don't have a lot of capacity and you can try to get other people to help out. So whether they're they're sort of providing you content. If you're saying, oh, we'll give you $100 if you share all this information or share your photo or tag us in this post, and you can win, guess what? You've just earned yourself content that you can retweet, that you can share, that you can keep the conversation going, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Another thing that's fun to do is use memes. People love memes. People want to see memes. They laugh at memes, especially if they're relevant to your content. You can make memes if you're creative enough, or you can search existing memes, but share that. Those are fun. Or GIFs are also a fun way, little interactive, short, 1 or 2 second moving photos or videos or whatever you want to call them. People like seeing that stuff, so get creative with those types of posts. And over time, there has been a shift in how you're measuring your engagement. So when social media a couple years ago, it was sort of like, oh, how many people are liking my page? How many people are liking my posts? How can I use promotional messages to share my content? Now it's sort of shifted to from just like how many people are liking my page to how many people are engaging with my page. They don't necessarily have to like your page to engage with your page. An engagement rate is total likes, shares, comments on a post. That's how Facebook, what engagement rate is. And so that is way more important than how many people like my page, because people are sharing my post and getting it, and then someone else is sharing that. That chain of command, yeah, it may lead back to some people liking our page, but way more people are seeing the content of our post. And so that's really sort of the key to measure, how well are you doing? How high is your engagement rate? And then, like I said, likes are one thing on a post, but shares are way more. It gets you way more exposure. So the goal should be to try to get people to share your posts and expose them to new audiences. They're all of their followers. And then, as I mentioned earlier too, response rate and time. You're responding to people, commenting people, responding to messenger questions on Facebook. That's all measured, and people can see, what is your response rate? Does this company respond within 24 hours? Do they respond within 1 hour? Do they have a really poor response rate? Really making sure that you're trying to do your best to manage that. So how do you manage all of this stuff? There are a lot of free resources out there. So one of them is TweetDeck, which is on the top. This is a place where you can pre-schedule all of your tweets. I like TweetDeck the best for pre-scheduling tweets. You can add photos. You can, basically set up your post to how you would like it in TweetDeck. And then you can also use it as a manager. If you don't want to actually use twitter.com, you can go and you can see your notifications, you can see messages, you can respond right within TweetDeck. And this is a free program that you can use. Another one is called Hootsuite. That people like to pre-schedule Twitter posts as well. And Hootsuite recently, maybe in the last 6 months to a year, I can't remember the exact time, but they now allow you to sort of schedule your Instagram posts. So previous to this, there was no way to pre-schedule an Instagram post. You had to just do it in the moment. And if you're trying to cover something on Saturday and you're not working, that was kind of a pain, and you had to sort of spend 10 minutes on your Saturday to get your post up. But what Hootsuite allows you to do now is pre-write the content, pre-write the photos, get everything ready, and then on the day of your post, it will send you a notification in Instagram, and all you have to do is click publish in that moment. So it's almost there. It's not 100% pre-scheduled, but it's really 100 times better than what it used to be. And then in my opinion, the best way to pre-schedule a post for Facebook is to do it right in Facebook. So you can see here, I have a little preview. You can write your post, and then you can go, there's a share now button, and then you can click on that and you go down and click schedule. And this is the best way to do it. And why do I say that? Is because you can see the preview of what your post is going to look like. You can make sure that your photo is aligned. You can make sure that your title is correct. You can make sure that your text, you can see all of it as a preview when you're scheduling it. And so there are other, like Hootsuite, you can schedule Facebook posts, and other stuff you can pre-schedule Facebook posts, but Facebook is really the best place to do that. I know some people are probably like, oh, I wish there was one place where I can just do everything. And there are, but in my opinion, it doesn't give you the best previews for all the different networks. I like TweetDeck for Twitter, Facebook for Facebook. For LinkedIn, there's a program called Buffer, which allows you to pre-schedule Instagram posts. So I'll use that sometimes, but I mean, sorry, not Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts. I use that sometimes, but I actually really prefer just to post right into LinkedIn. And then Buffer also lets you, which is new, I think within the last year, is you can schedule retweets. So previous to this, you couldn't reschedule a retweet. You can only click the retweet button in that moment in Twitter, and that was it. But Buffer allows you to take the link to the post and schedule when you want that post to retweet. So you can sort of space out your posts, which is really nice feature of Buffer. So let's move on here. Oh, here's an example of Buffer. So this is what it looks like when you signed in. You can, we use this, like I said, for LinkedIn and for Twitter, and it's a really cool feature. So for analytics sometimes is a tough one because if your capacity is really low, then you're less likely to have time to measure the analytics for your posts. But if you do, it can be really rewarding, and it gives you a lot of insight as to what's going on your social media networks. So there are different programs that you can pay a monthly subscription for to measure analytics. I've used Sprout Social before. I've used a variety of different ones, but I personally like to create my own spreadsheet and pull the data from Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever to measure what's going on, because I can create sort of a custom dashboard of what I want to see or what I want to measure, so I can understand what's going on. As time goes on, these different metric programs may improve, but currently I really like this sort of method of having a Excel sheet the best. It does take more time because you have to go and manually pull the data from the different social media platforms, but it helps, for me, it helps paint a better picture of what's going on. And so here, this is just a simple screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet from a prior company that I worked in, on different metrics that we would use and pull. So, and this was sort of our summary page. This was the first tab in our Excel sheet, and then every tab was every month we would put more detailed information of all the different stuff and sort of pull it into this summary sheet on the first tab so you can see what was going on. So this was Facebook. And as we can see, our likes are going up, our engagement's going up, our reach is going up, our average impressions per post are going up. It was a really cool way to visually see what was going on. And this is very basic Excel, just taking a basic table and plotting it on a bar graph, but it was really interesting to see. Then here's something we did. Here's a tab. So for each month, we would take what was that month's numbers and the previous month's numbers and look at the difference. And you can see, was it going up? Was it going down? Another thing that we really found really helpful, we did best performing posts and worst performing posts. And we just did a quick screenshot of what that post was. And over time, over 6 months to a year, we started to see trends. Like on Instagram, this is say for Audubon, on Instagram, we noticed that people do not care about pictures with people in them. They only want to see birds. If we put a picture of a staff person or someone just at an event talking, did really, really poorly. We put a picture of a blue bird up really, really well. So we started to see those types of trends over time, which was pretty cool. Like I said, this takes some time, but it does give you a lot of insight as to what your audience likes, what does well, so you can sort of shift your social media strategy to do more content that works. Let's see. So just want to do a quick recap here of the different names that I threw out there. So TweetDeck, Hootsuite, Buffer, those 3 programs are all really important if you want to pre-schedule your posts so that you can spend an hour Monday morning setting up your content for the week. If you have maybe 2 posts on Facebook this week, 1 post a day on Twitter, whatever it is, you can sort of schedule out that content, and then you don't have to worry about it, especially if you don't have a lot of capacity. Another resource that I've mentioned in passing, and you probably saw on the screen, was Bitly. Bitly is a link shortener. So in order to make those clean, concise posts, you don't want to have a really long URL that sort of looks really cluttered, and you can just shorten that link. Bitly is a free resource. It also, within the back end of Bitly, you can see how many people have clicked on that link. So if you're trying to track clickbacks, you can use Bitly as a source. There are other link shorteners out there too. Google has a Google link shortener out there, and Hootsuite has one built in to the program. I prefer to use Bitly, and I like to have all my content there. The other cool thing about Bitly is you can customize the shortened URL, so it'll be bit.ly/ whatever you put. So if I'm doing something called, like I mentioned earlier, the Columbia Dam removal, I might have bit.ly/Columbia Dam. And so long as no one else has used that combination of words after the link, that is open for you to use. And so you can sort of claim that, which is a pretty cool feature, and that's free. The final free resource that I'm gonna move into and do a quick demo on is a program called Canva. And Canva is a web-based design program that has a lot of pre-sized and pre-designed content that's free and you can pay for, free that you don't have to pay for, or there's options of content in there that you can pay for if you want a higher quality image. But there's so much free stuff in there that you really don't ever have to pay for anything. I don't think I've ever paid for anything in Canva, and I've created hundreds of designs. So it's a pretty cool software, and I'm going to show you guys how to use it and how you can sort of up your photo game or meme game on the different social media networks. And Canva can be used also beyond social media for event flyers, for invitations, for a lot of different things. So I'm going to switch my screen here over to the actual tab for Canva. So just give me 1 second here. So you just go to canva.com and you can create an account. And once you log in, you'll see this home screen here, which just has all of your designs. You'll see here, one of the coolest features of Canva is that it has pre-sized content for all the different social media posts, depending on what you want to do. So if you're going to put Twitter, here's Twitter, Facebook. If you're going to do Instagram, just a square. If you want to do a letter here, if you wanted to create a logo, if you wanted to create a letterhead, your resume in here, you can do all these types of pre-designed or pre-sized content. And once you click on each one of these, there are sample designs that you can use and you can edit. So let's just go, let's create a Facebook post, right? So once I click, I want to create a Facebook post. I click on this post. Here's my canvas, right? This white square is pre-designed for me. And here on the left side are all the different samples. So you'll see a lot of them have this little crown and they say free. So those are the ones that I'm always looking for. If I see a paid one, I'm probably not going to use it because I can probably see that and create it myself. See the little money sign? That means that you have to pay for it. So I click on the one I want, and here it is. And now I can customize this image to be whatever I want, right? So here we go. Let's say I'm going to create a Facebook photo advertisement for the small business conference. So it's going to be in New Orleans. So I'm going to get a photo that sort of New Orleans-esque. Oh, look at this. It's on Halloween. So let's just drag that photo in. And my computer is a little slow here, but you can see it's now in the background. It's sort of created the same filter on the photo that I originally had. I can change the coloring if I want to here on the filters. So I can go and I can say, okay, maybe I want this photo to be a different filter. Maybe I want it to be the blues. It sounds appropriate. Okay, so I change that filter, and then I can just click the text here, and I can put whatever I want it to say. So small business conference. Okay, it's a little big, so I'm just going to reduce the size here, maybe 48. And obviously I need to change the color because I can't really see it. And so here, let's put this Society for American Military. Whoops. Oh my gosh. I'm type today here. Engineers. Let's make that blue. And let's do, this is going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's make that blue. Now I'm doing this quick for you guys, so. And then, okay, maybe I want to, I'm like, oh, this font, it's a little thin and I can't read it. So let's use the regular one. Okay, and you'll see here, there's a lot of different fonts you can pick from. A lot of cool fonts too that make your content look really sweet. So we've got that now. And maybe I want to add text. So let's add the dates. October 31 to November 2nd, right? And I can just click and I can drag and I can change the size to whatever I want it to be. And you'll see that there's like some snap areas here where it'll automatically center it for me if I line it up. And let's see, this font is not really a good font for this. So let's pick a different font, maybe something like this, kind of Halloween-y. And we can change the color to do this. And then I want to say, okay, I really also want to have the samey logo. So the coolest part about this is you can upload any photo in here that you want. And so sometimes you can search for photos, right? Like we found the New Orleans background. But if there's not something that's free and available, we can upload our own. So I already uploaded the samey logo. So I can now just drag that in and add that to the post. And here we are. We have a post that we want to use. Oh wait, one more thing I forgot. I want to add samey SBC 18. I want to add this hashtag, and I want it to be this font, or let's do this font, and I want it to be matching blue. And so here we go. Just going to drag that into the corner. Now I've got my hashtag. I've got the dates of the conference. I've got whatever it is. So you can, you can work on the details, like making sure that it's all centered or moving stuff around. But it's a really, really simple way to create cool cards or graphics about whatever you want to do. And there's a lot of things that are free here. There's photos, but there's frames, there's lines, you can put lines in, you can put shapes. My computer's a little slow here to load, but there are just a lot of different things that you can add in here. Icons, you can change the background to whatever you want. Like I said, there's the text options. There's also like sample text here that you can use and just drag in. But in a really quick couple of minutes, you can create a really professional looking graphic for your social media accounts. And like, here's a free photos thing, which is so cool. You can just search whatever you want and create any type of layout. So yeah, there's lots of layouts here, lots of different things depending on what you want to do. If you want to do a quote, if you want to do a photo, if you want to do a flyer. But just going back to the home screen here. So this is all that stuff you can do for free. Canva also offers a Canvas, I think it's called Canva Business or Canva Work. And that's nonprofits can apply to get Canva work for free if you send in your 501c3 tax exemption, or paid companies can pay $10 a month. And what that allows you to do is to have a couple of extra features. So when we're doing this, it allows you to add your branding in. So let me just show you where that is. You can add in, like you may have seen here, adding text in, right? You can have your custom fonts. You'll see at the top here, I used to work for some institutes at Yale, so I had the Yale fonts automatically in there. You can also have your branding colors in here. So I upload the official colors here. Princeton Hydro's colors are here, right? So that I can instantly just snap to whatever our color palette is and just make sure I'm keeping in line with branding. Or if you're really, really like into it and nerdy, you may have already just memorized the color code, and you can just put in the hex code here if you want to know what you want to do. So it's a pretty cool feature. And so you can sort of help up your game in branding by having all this stuff sort of pre-uploaded, your fonts, your colors, and all that stuff. And that's $10 a month. It's pretty cheap in terms of social media management tools, but I would argue that you probably don't even need to pay that. There's a lot of ways you can do that to just sort of have a free social media reference. So yeah, so I guess we can sort of move to questions if anyone has any thoughts or feedback. Questions? I think I see something coming in the chat.
Thank you, Dana. This has been really good. I'm going to unmute everyone's lines at this point. If anybody has a question that they would like to ask Dana, please go ahead.
I'm just seeing a question here in the chat. Someone asked, will Canva take a PNG file? Yes, absolutely. And the other cool thing, I should switch back to this here, is that Canva, you can export Canva as well. So once you have your design, you can download it into a JPEG, a PNG, PDF, a PDF print. There's a lot of different options. So depending on where you want to put this, you can just export it right there. You can create a PNG with a transparent background. So it's a pretty cool feature. But yeah, when you're uploading photos, like the Samey logo that I uploaded, it was a PNG file. So it won't have that white background. Let's see, and then I'm looking here. Another question. The question is there any way of measuring the expected or actual return on investment for the amount of time and resources spent on social media engagement? That is a hard question, because it's hard to track. There are some ways to directly, depending on what your goal, going back to goals. So there are some ways to directly measure that. There are other ways that are going to be impossible to manage or to measure. So for example, one way that a social media investment can be measured and you can get your direct return on investment is one of the companies I worked for. They wanted to gather email addresses for their marketing. And so there are many ways you can do that. You can buy email address lists, or you can try to get people to give them to you in various ways. So they ran a campaign on Facebook using Facebook Ad Manager, where they asked people to sign up and give their email address. And they ran the campaign. They spent a couple $1,000s running the campaign, and they got lots and lots of email addresses. And they found out that their time put into both the cost of running the ad and the time managing it was actually cheaper than it would be if they were to outright just buy whatever, 5,000 email addresses. They got them through Facebook advertising cheaper than they would if they just paid for it. So if that's your goal, right? If your goal is to get email addresses for your marketing campaign through social media, that's one way you can directly measure that return on investment. They knew exactly how much time they put into it, how much it costs, and they compared it to the average market value of what they were getting. Other ways are a little bit harder. So if I'm trying to direct people back to my website, Princeton Hydro's website, because we have a blog. So I may do a blog on a project that we're working on or a cool story or something. And I'm posting that on social media, trying to drive people back to my website. That's one of our goals, right? Because once they hit our website, then they can go back and they can see our services. And then maybe they will be interested in our services, and then maybe that will generate some type of lead. So that's a little bit harder to track, because unless I have a complex, like really a way to manage how did I get that lead that came in through the website, that they may call an engineer or scientist, and I don't even know that they actually got that lead from our website, or which was generated from Facebook. That line of return on investment is really hard to track, because there's like 1,000 ways that people can come to you and maybe get a lead. But there, like I said, depending on what your goal is, there are ways you can track it. And if you really want to get complex, the amount of information that, like, say, Facebook allows you that you can download in terms of analytics is enormous. There's more Excel tabs in the data analytics that you can download for free on the back end than I even know what to do with. So I'm sure if someone was really good at interpreting that data and tracking it, that maybe there are ways to track that back to the website. But with limited capacity, I can't do that. For me, it's more about branding. It's more about, but like I said, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to make money on social media, then you want to spend more money in being able to track back that lead. But our goal is to really develop our brand and to get our name out there and to showcase the work that we're doing, and to show the communities that we're working in that we're there and we're working, and we're doing all this great work for them. What are the benefits for them? That's sort of the stage that we're at in social media. Eventually, it would be great to sort of make that direct connection, but that direct connection is not always obvious on how to get there.
Well, we are right at 1 o'clock, a minute or two afterwards. Thank you very much, Dana, for your presentation and taking the time to come speak to us. This has been very, very educational, and we had a great turnout. At this point, I'd like to invite Lisa, our Young Member Council Chair. She has a few remarks I'd like to make.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. First and foremost, Dana, thank you so much for your time today. This was an excellent presentation. I know me personally, I took away some things I'm going to share internally with my company and also with the Sammy Jacks board. I know they're looking to up their social media. So this will not only be viewed by the group today, but hopefully some others will share as well. And then also want to extend my thanks to Jeff, our Vice Chair of Programs. These run so smoothly, you guys might think that there's not a lot of logistics, but I will tell you behind the scenes, Jeff does quite a bit to make these happen. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you to all of the SAME staff who helped support him on that. And then just wanted to give you guys a couple of announcements of things going on that you might be able to engage in. One, our next Young Member Council call is next Thursday. Every young member is invited to join on to that. We also have the CAP program, which allows young members to get a little bit of a refund or a stipend for testing fees, exam fees for certifications, and professional registrations. So if you fall into that category, the next round of applications are due October 5th. There's more information, details on the website. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to myself or Danielle Barner. And also just a quick plug for the Leadership Development Program, which you guys have probably heard about. Those applications are in final stages, or the applications are in final stages of being set up, and will be released to you guys to apply to start that program at JETSI in 2019. And then also just be on the lookout. We have a new newsletter coming out fairly soon, as well as some exciting things coming up at Small Business Conference at the end of October in New Orleans. So again, just one more thank you to everyone who made today possible. It was an awesome professional development program. And with that, Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap things up.
Thank you, Lisa. I just want to let everybody else that is still on the call know that we are changing things a bit, as you probably noticed with the registration process. If you need a professional development hour certificate for attending this session, please email registration@same.org and request that. You will have to make that request before the video goes up on YouTube so that we're not just handing out a bazillion of these. And our next professional development webinar for the fourth quarter, the last one of 2018, will be a few months from now, the 6th of December, and that's also the first Thursday of December. Our topic is going to be Introduction to the FAR. So if you don't know anything about the FAR, or you think you know everything about the FAR, please attend and join with us. The FAR is applicable for all of us working in federal contracting. Regardless of your position or what you do for your firm, the FAR affects what you do, I promise you. We've got a fantastic speaker lined up who's going to take us through and help give an introduction to the FAR that everybody will be able to follow. You won't need a legal degree to get through the webinar, and I guarantee you'll find it interesting. FAR has a ton of stuff to say to us, and a lot of times when I've thrown out FAR references in the past to people who should know the FAR better than me, they're surprised at the level of information that is in there sometimes. There's some neat nuggets in there. So please be sure to join us for that. Be looking out for the invitations that will be going out in November. And finally, if you have topics or speakers of interest that you would like to see on future professional development calls, please give us a shout out. Let us know what you'd like to see or hear on these webinars. We'd love to serve you with topics that are of interest to you. And with that, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Dana, for presenting to us. It's been an excellent session, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Bye.